Okay, well, hey, I'm Maddie. I got my bachelor's in environmental bio and I got a minor in studio art at CAS because we also have a great arts program. If you guys haven't checked out South Campus, the teachers are phenomenal and it's just a fun way to distract yourself too when you're writing lab reports and writing up papers to go paint something or draw something as well. So if you haven't checked it out, it's fun. So I graduated in 2015. I actually finished up my classes in December. So I headed out a semester early to jump into the job force because my brother had just started college that year. So we were kind of out of time and life was chaotic. Um, and when I got out of college, I didn't really know what kind of opportunities were out there. There are tons of listservs and different job boards you can look at, but actually finding good ones for science can be a really big challenge. So at the end of our discussion today, I have a whole list of them that I would be happy to share with you guys, just to give you some starting points. But there's a ton of stuff out there. You can do everything from working in the private sector to working for nonprofit organizations, working for university-based research programs, as well as working for the government. And it gets interesting, looking at where the funding is coming from, but there are new jobs every single year, especially seasonal positions that as college students, currently taking classes, you guys can take advantage of in the summer. And a lot of them actually pay pretty well, surprisingly, for internships, which is the nice thing about the sciences, because a lot of other majors may have unpaid internships, which can make things stressful. But when I got out of college, I ended up moving from New York down to North Carolina because I got associated with the Asheville Arboretum Germplasm Repository. And one thing led to another. I ended up at a native plant nursery in this little town called Franklin, where my significant other found a career path and a really good job. And I started working at this nursery that got me connected to a field office where there's a ton of temperate rainforest research going on, because we're kind of in a weird location. We get the same weather as Washington State, actually. Kylan and Kiernan probably are more familiar with that. But I got associated with this really cool organization that is a mixture of the university type research and the nonprofit side. They were founded in 1927 as that enmeshed type of organization. So even though I was working for the nonprofit side, I did a lot of work with the research side as well. And in those field office type setups, you tend to have small office dynamics. And because there's such a small staff and you're kind of stressed about funding because you have to go out and raise those funds. You have to contact people and get them excited about your mission, and get them to give money to not only support your salary and the overhead, but also the scientific research going on there. So you end up doing things like taking the research from the scientists working there and translating it into something the community can understand and get excited about, which you guys kind of get to practice that in your classes, doing the research, building your lab reports and your various research papers, but also trying to find a way to better understand it yourselves and make a story out of it. So that can be like 40% of the job at a nonprofit organization. That, and also website management through simple things. You don't have to know coding. Most of them use WordPress or Wix or Squarespace. But website management, doing design work, developing educational material like pamphlets, posters, little note cards to hand out, using that language that you've previously translated. And sometimes you get to do fun stuff like help the executive director host a dinner party for millionaires, where you end up like having to source catering companies and to interact with people who like have millions of dollars and are used to these crazy parties, and you have to go and talk to them about your mission and why it's important. And they get really excited about it too, which is very rewarding, seeing that they can make a positive impact in a time when we're affected by climate change. I mean, we're worried in our temperate rainforest here in North Carolina that we're losing salamander diversity. We're actually the most salamander diverse area in the world, which is amazing. We have 52 different species, but they're starting to get different fungal issues because of climate change and sometimes loss of moisture as well. We have dry years, we have fires, we have wet years. All of that is really stressing out the ecosystem around here. And so communicating that research, that is new research out every single year to different people who come from all sorts of different backgrounds is extremely rewarding, and you get to see that you're making a difference. And sometimes you even get to go on educational hikes with them, like working at the nonprofit, you'll pick a location where you know there are, for example, a bunch of different spring wildflowers. You take them out, show them what species we have there, and just educating them about what they have in their backyards. So that was a really rewarding experience, and that nonprofit job led me to working at the Biological Research Station as well, which it was a lot of similar work, but kind of with a university structure. So again, website management, developing educational resources, but also helping organize classes and class trips, figuring out where to take students and how to take them there safely. And sometimes just figuring out like, okay, we have a visiting researcher and a visiting lecturer and we're booked full of students. Where do we put them all? So it's a mixture of science, logistics, and design work and marketing, as well as just interacting with the public. And we also got to organize the Highland Special Plethodontid Conference as employees there. So we got to take these professionals from all around the world and bring them to Highlands to talk about their ongoing research with the plethodontid lungless salamanders. So it was a huge conference, a lot of logistics to organize, and we even got to design like little salamander logos to put on t-shirts and things for them. But just seeing the incredible research out there, like, did you know there's a volcano salamander? It lives on volcanoes in Ecuador, and it has this like neon toxic green splotch on it because it grows in such a toxic environment. But despite the fact that it absorbs all of these chemicals and materials through its skin, it's fine. It can just live in a volcano, no big deal. We got to learn about that at the conference. Anyway.
That's a plethodon salamander, Maddie?
Yeah, so there are a bunch of different species, but there are actually a couple different species in Ecuador that live on the outside of the volcano, coming up the base close to the tree line. So anyway, lots of cool information and cool experiences. But throughout all of this, I was still working at the native plant nursery, where I got to learn a lot more about what's going on with our pollinators, and having that experience and opportunity helped me better communicate the scientific information to the community as well, and tell them like, hey, you need these plants in your garden up here. They're native, and these are the specific pollinators that depend on them. So you can kind of mix and match what you're doing through a scientific organization with just a regular everyday job. Everything can be a learning experience. But in 2018, I decided I wasn't really happy with what I was doing. It was a lot of administrative work, and it was really rewarding, but I needed a break and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I wasn't ready for grad school yet. So my significant other and I, we took the year off to go hike up and down America. We hiked the Appalachian Trail and then took 20 days off to prepare all of our food and travel plans. And then we went out west. We hiked the Pacific Crest Trail. I got frostbite and scurvy at the same time, and I berry maced myself, which I do not recommend. It's very painful. You go blind for about an hour or two, and it burns a lot. But it was a great experience. And surprisingly enough, with hiking trips like that, there are a lot of research opportunities. We met this one woman. Her trail name is Sail, and she's hiking the International Appalachian Trail, which goes from Alabama all the way up through Maine to, I think she goes to Iceland next, and then she goes through Europe and does the trail down to Mexico. Who knew that was even a single trail? She has to take a boat for a large portion of it. But she is collecting stream quality samples all the way up the East Coast. So she contacted universities before she left, and they said, we will give you money. We have grant funding for this. We just don't have the people, but we will give you money and test tubes to go collect water quality samples from all of the freshwater streams you can find. Everyone you cross, we want a sample from it. So she has a backpack, like half of it is food and gear, and the other half is just empty glass vials for collecting stream water samples. So it's kind of weird where you can find these research opportunities and even funding opportunities based on whatever adventure you want to go on. But the big thing about this hike for me was it made me realize how much I missed the fieldwork side of science, and going out, doing work in the field and analyzing it in the classroom or the office. So last year, I was lucky enough to get a job with a nonprofit partnering with the Bureau of Land Management out in Colorado. And we got to do, it's called the AIM project, Assessment, Inventory, and Monitoring. We would drive out to crazy remote locations. We would hike out 3 miles with giant backpacks full of fieldwork equipment. And we would go to a randomly generated plot. We would lay out transects and use different techniques like LPI, which is line point intercept, and canopy gap assessment, as well as species inventory, to basically name every single plant that we could find along our transects and within the plot, and see how big of a gap there was in the canopy to assess soil cover, because that affects, how much erosion is going to impact an area if there's heavy rain, or, what impact cattle are going to have if they're allowed to graze out here. So we would go out and assess all the plants. We would take notes of every single thing we saw out there, like what kind of tracks are you finding, what kind of footprints, what kind of scat do you see, is there any sign of grazing, is there an old road out there, or is there a mine nearby, like just what the heck is out there and what can you tell us about it. And then we would dig a giant soil pit and assess soil layer horizons, and we got to carry out a little bottle of hydrochloric acid to drop in the soil to see how bubbly it was. And soil effervescence is what they call it, indicates how much calcium carbonate there is. So yeah, we got to drop acid in the desert for work. But it was a wonderful project, and we filled out a lot of reports and analyzed all our data and uploaded it to this enormous database that they have, the BLM has out there right now. And it's actually through ArcGIS, so you should be able to access all of that information as a member of the public, actually, because with Freedom of Information Act, it has to be available to the public. But we would use satellite imagery and Google Maps and everything to figure out, well, how the heck do we get out to a spot? There are no roads around for miles. Like, is there an old dirt track? Did there used to be an old ranch there? Is there anything flat we can use to get out that way? And it was just great problem solving, collecting data, and seeing incredible parts of the country. Like in Colorado alone, our plots went from salt desert to sagebrush steppe or grassland, all the way up to aspen forest. And we got to work with endangered species as well, like the sage grouse. We had maybe 5 in our field office territory, and unfortunately, they are not very smart animals, so they need to be protected. Like they'll clothesline themselves on fences all the time. We had to develop special reflective, it looks like a fish lure, to hang along the fences to say, hey, like, sagebrush, don't hit on this. You're gonna strangle yourself again, like the last 4. Just trying to figure out ways to save the poor animals. I don't know how they have made it this long with those issues, but they're beautiful birds. But we also got to work with the wildlife technicians who, they had the GS positions, which are the government-based ones. And those are the ones where you can get really a career track with the government started. You can start with a GS3 as an internship in college, and they will usually, sometimes they'll pay you for a GS3, other times they will just waive your tuition and give you benefits and housing, as well as food assistance. But once you get in with the GS3, you'll be writing reports, helping with field work, depending on what department you go into. There's stuff with the BLM, the Forest Service. There's also rangelands, which is a different category. And you can work your way all the way up through GS13 and really get a job at a particular field office if that's what you're looking to do long term. But it's a great way to get in to the government programs and learn a variety of different field techniques. But that was my job in Colorado, and I absolutely loved it, but it was a seasonal position. So that ended, I came back to North Carolina, and now I'm working on getting ready for graduate school. So I'm taking calculus and organic chemistry and sending out a bunch of applications to all sorts of graduate programs. But sorry, that was a lot. That was kind of a big word dump. Do you guys have any questions about the different style jobs from what you've heard so far?
Did you prefer any over the others?
I loved the field work in Colorado. Working in partnership with the Bureau of Land Management, we had so much more field work than any of the other jobs I worked with, which were largely administrative. So this was direct research, which they're actually using the data we collected to train satellites to be able to assess ecological health across the world. So it is a very well-funded project. It's going on for another 3 years guaranteed funding, and then they'll try to renew it after that. But you can work, let's see, Colorado, New Mexico, and Oregon and California currently have the largest programs on that, but they're also implementing a lot more in the Northeast. And I think New York is actually starting some stuff in the Catskills, but I haven't kept up with that one as much.
Catskills.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at Asia. Asia lives over in northeastern portion of the Catskills.
Gotcha. It's a beautiful area from what I hear. But there are a couple different resources you guys can look into if you want to start investigating summer research opportunities or internship opportunities. USAjobs.gov is a phenomenal website. I'm sure Dr. Yorks has shared that one with you already. And another one is Orion Grassroots, which I think Dr. Yorks is another one you talk about a lot. But the Great Basin Institute, if you guys are willing to travel and work out in desert conditions, they do a lot out of Nevada, Utah, and New Mexico. They're very well funded, and you have all sorts of opportunities over there, from more fieldwork based to more office based. So is Southwest Conservation Corps. They are more out of Colorado and New Mexico. The Americorps program is actually really good. They do a partnership with Southwest Conservation Corps. So it helps with like student loan forgiveness. You get an education award for that. Basically, they'll give you a chunk of money at the end of your service to help pay back anything associated with student expenses, whether it's attending more classes or paying off student loans or anything of that nature. And some stuff online to just, if you want emails coming in giving you different options for opportunities, the Ecolog listserv is phenomenal. They do everything from graduate opportunities, PhD opportunities. They share new scientific resources. Like they just sent out an email on a new digital herbarium that you can look at, as well as jobs everywhere. And they actually send out emails with stuff relating to Southwest Conservation Corps and the Great Basin Institute as well. And Texas A&M is really good. That they kind of have a weird thing with their timing. Like they won't take off old posts, so you have to double check each individual post to see when it expires. But again, that lists graduate opportunities as well as jobs. And if you just search for different field offices around the world or around the country, sometimes they tend to keep more local, so they'll post job openings on their individual websites. And if you don't know, there's a USDA NRCS office just down the road in Hamilton. And I've done some volunteer time there while I was in school, and they're a great group of people. They're really nice, and you can get some field work experience with soil assessment, which just looks great on any resume. So you have a lot of options.
All right.
Any other questions?
Let's hear some questions. Unless you've got the next 5 years planned out in detail, which.
Would you say those things like in the Southwest, were they like highly competitive, like to actually get the position?
So I was kind of surprised by that. I guess they are having, they're not having a high return rate. So it was actually pretty easy to get the position through Southwest Conservation Corps. And from the wildlife biologist side, since they were applying at a GS4 level, I guess it was fairly easy for them as well. Just sending out a resume. A lot of those government applications, you don't actually have to attach a cover letter. Speaking to some of the higher ups in the office, they said they get so many applications for the higher level stuff that with the lower level positions, they really just want a list of your technical skills. Cover letters can be really helpful, but when you're dealing with just that massive applications, it's easier for them if you just send in a detailed resume. And with government resumes, you can have a longer resume than with different areas. They're actually looking for something around 3 to 5 pages once you get some work experience under your belt, rather than the single page that a lot of other places are looking for, because they want a full list. Like a lot of the skills you're learning in Dr. York's courses actually are really great to list on your resumes, like anything with hectares or seining. That's a really big one, especially if you want to work for Fish and Wildlife or work in the fisheries business. Basically every skill you do that is field work, write it down and put it on a resume. It will be really, really helpful when it comes to searching for a job or internship.
Maddie, you sent me your, Maddie and I talked yesterday to come up with a game plan for today. Maddie, if I can figure out a way to pull up your resume and just hide your personal information, you mind if I pull that up?
No, that's fine.
Share the screen. Give me a moment or two to do that.
And after we've covered that, I do have a couple of photos that I can share with you guys just from different foundation and station events, as well as some of our plot sites out in Colorado, which are just, they look like a storybook. It's beautiful out there.
You can go ahead and do that a while, Maddie. I'll pull this up and try and get a window ready to share then. And,
okay. I'll give screen share a try.
Chime in with some questions there.
Okay. Let's see if we can go to Joe. Okay, so this is the Nature Center where I got to work. The Nature Center was a museum that we were associated with, and this is one of our fundraiser events. This is us putting in a new fence along the trail. We got to do a little trail work out there. And this is Colorado. This is in the spring when we still had a lot of snowpack and, you know, driving through giant holes in the rock to get to field sites. Identifying different plants like Plantago patagonica. This is my crew. Driving to one of the field sites. Those are the La Salle's Mountains out there. This is an archaeological piece that we found. Sometimes you get to do archaeological site research, as well as this one out here. These are some of the pueblos. And we worked right next to them. This is me being very excited we found those. And this is when the bugs were really bad. The sun will get you out there, and so will the gnats in the spring. That's one of our collared lizards that we got to assess their populations as well. And this is one of our desert sites, juniper pinyon forest. And this is digging the soil pit. That's my crew lead. And with all of our soil test kits and heading out on old mining roads to get to plot. Those were just some quick photos, but that's what it was like in Colorado, just beautiful views every day. And sometimes it's 100 degrees, sometimes it's pretty chilly. There were a couple of days where we had to get up at 4:30 in the morning to beat the gnats so we wouldn't get eaten alive while digging the soil pit. But it was incredible. Every moment of it was wonderful.
How far away did you live from your study sites?
So in Colorado, since we were seasonals, we got to live at the field office. There was a bunkhouse for Forest Service and BLM employees. So we lived a 3-minute walk from the office. And some of our field sites were, if you count the drive out the dirt road, a 6-hour drive away. But we would go out there and camp and then drive or hike out to the field site and then come back to camp. And they provided all of our food and cooking equipment and everything. We got a per diem, but it was really however far we could make it out before sundown and feel comfortable with it.
Per diem, Maddie, I'm not sure everybody probably even knows what that means.
Oh, per diem is extra money they give you if you have to be out of town for the night to cover food and shelter costs. But since we were camping, all we had to do was buy food, which we did as a team.
So I've got your resume pulled up here, Maddie, and it's just got your name on it. You must have you pulled your phone number and email and stuff off it, I guess, before you sent me that copy, then, right?
I did. Yeah, I pulled that off as well as my supervisor contact information.
Okay, perfect. Then let's see if I can do this correctly. All right. We seeing a PDF? Yeah. Yep. Okay. I'm seeing a head nod there. All right. So, Matt, you want to, I don't know, talk us through how you have this arranged? I mean, it's pretty standard stuff, but everybody, well, oftentimes might tweak how they're preparing their resume for a particular purpose.
Yeah, so this one is based on government applications, where a lot of them will prefer, or some will even insist that you have how long your position there was, how many hours you worked a week. After that, you typically list your salary, whether it's a weekly or monthly payment. And then on the next line, you would have your supervisor's name, their phone number, and then just their job title. And then it would say whether or not you can contact them as a reference. So just a simple yes, no in that field. Then below it, I guess it's kind of nitpicky, but a lot of people prefer, since you're using sentence fragments, that you don't leave a period after each fragment for each bullet point. Just a little formatting thing. But really, you start with, when you're listing the skill sets on here, what is kind of the most impressive? What is the thing that will make most of an impact for the job you're applying for? And sometimes you'll have to have like an entirely different resume for every job you're applying for. Largely with government-based jobs, you can have the same one and just send it in after over and over again for different positions. So a lot of the fieldwork positions that they're posting, they want to know specifically if you can use GPS to get to a point. They rely on the handheld GPSs to navigate in the backcountry, and you have just a bunch of different types of maps. So you can navigate out to where the plots are. And I think, yeah, following safety protocol is really big. If you just say, like, I have done something where I had to follow a set protocol to keep everybody safe, that's impressive for them. And also if you mention that you can work in a positive and professional manner, no matter how stressful the work environment is, just throw that in, like, I can work in a positive professional manner. That's something they're actively looking for. Transect design should also be on there if you guys have a chance to do that. Yeah, and just the different protocols you follow.
So many, well, at least some in this group are going to probably be in the field botany class in the fall, and we'll be doing some of the
Excellent. That was my favorite class.
I thought it was. Yep, Maddie really sunk
Yeah.
into the plant stuff.
You get to climb a lot of trees if you want to.
Yep, I've got a photo of that ready to show the group here. I'm done with the.
Oh dear.
Formalish
I remember that tree.
I don't know how well everybody can read this. You able to read words actually? Yeah. Okay. All right, there's your.
This is the Hamilton office, the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service. I don't know if Emily Armstrong is still there. She was heading up the volunteer department 5 years ago when I did it. She's incredibly nice though. She's really helpful, and you'll get to go out. If you do decide to volunteer, you'll have to fill out a little bit of paperwork, but then you'll get to go out to different agricultural sites as well as wetlands and just assess how well farmers are keeping up with conservation guidelines, because they're getting some grant funding from the USDA to maintain wetlands and not plant on steeply sloped areas and to rotate crops for soil health. So you get to learn some really great skills if you decide to go over there.
Did you, Maddie, I was not your academic advisor, so I don't remember. Did you do that for credit or not for an internship?
I did not do that one for credit. I only found out about that office about 2.5 months before I graduated. So I just went over and crammed in as many volunteer hours as I could. This one, the one in Earlville, the ethnobotany intern, that one I did for credit.
Okay, yeah. And then here's the one I remember
Yeah.
distinctly. All the different things you help with around here, along with Catherine, and yeah, ton of stuff.
Yeah, those microscope slides. There were a lot of those to go through.
Oh, I haven't had to think about how much effort you all put into that for a while because you did a good job of putting it together and finished.
Oh, look at
Yeah,
that.
nope,
all,
you used
those,
it.
all those fish scales.
All those fish scales. Yep. I'll insert you over to Hawk Circle.
And that's a great place too. They're always looking for summer counselors if you guys are looking for local summer jobs and to work teaching kids how to safely run around in the woods. It's a fun job.
Paige, how far is Cherry Valley from you?
I'm not sure.
That might be in a reasonable commute from home there. Well, actually, you wouldn't be commuting from home. You would live there, right? Maddie, you stayed there the whole time you were working with the kids there.
Yeah, they have a farmhouse where you can get your own room, or if it's really crowded, they have cabins, or if you want to, you can camp out. Some people decide to live in tents the whole summer. And it's a good idea on your resume to just go through and list a bunch of the technical skills you have in a skills section rather than putting it all in with the job descriptions. So just listing like ArcGIS, or I have a wilderness first aid certification and all the online stuff. That's really helpful on resumes.
Yeah, I was telling Maddie yesterday, we as a group had worked on our resumes and started put together some list of your skills. So you can see a combination of software, defensive 4x4 driving. I like that.
Yeah, we had to take a course through the BLM on it. So they just had us like drive over mounds of gravel and come to emergency stops on gravel roads. But an interesting class. We learned what oh my God, I'm forgetting the word. Basically, the very basics on how trucks work and shifting into four-wheel drive and how to tow a truck out of a mud pit. There was one crew where the old BLM road they were driving on, the road collapsed in a washout. And so the back half of their truck fell into the pit, and they had to set up a winch system and stack rocks underneath the back wheels of the truck using we have Montana sharpshooters out there, which are just giant heavy shovels, which are great for digging soil pits and clay. But they were loading rocks and squishing them under the tires so they could lever the truck back up and get it onto the road and get out of there. But they were all safe. They're all okay. Nobody went to the hospital.
Sounds like fun. I would love that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to pull out of that screen. Okay. More questions for Maddie? All right. Well, I got to.
One more quick tip is if you guys aren't involved in any of the campus clubs or activities, explore them. They're a great resource and they look really good on a resume. From what I understand through my grad school research, a lot of grad schools are not looking for people with a perfect 4.0 who are fully focused on academics. They're really looking for people who can maintain a 3.4 to 3.8 while doing other activities, whether it's working, being a member of a club. They want to see that you can manage to have a work-life balance, especially in government. That was one thing our boss told us time and time again, like, I know you guys are working crazy hours to get this research done, but you have to maintain a work-life balance. And that's actually why we hired a lot of you, because you have shown that you can have a life, you can have a job and you can still enjoy yourselves, which also contributes to being able to work with a positive attitude, because some of these jobs require a lot from you, and being able to maintain a healthy, positive attitude while working with other people is really, really important. So again, getting involved in clubs where you're kind of networking and showing that you can just do other stuff other than your homework and paperwork, it's really important. So take advantage. The Adventure Club, I can personally recommend. That was a good one. And I don't know if you guys still have the Sustainability Club, but that's a good time to do.
We got the Environmental Club. There actually was a separate Sustainability Club for a short length of time, right?
Oh, I guess, yeah, that did merge into the Environmental Club. It became one and the same.
Van, was he?
Yeah, for I think like 2 or 3 years we had a separate club.
Yeah, okay. Let's see. Oh, she's not in this class. We got one of our seniors who is working on some material to put together a sustainability webpage for the college.
Very nice.
Yeah, long overdue. So, okay, well, I have been recording this because Maddie gave me permission to be able to record it and be able to post it for future students. So I'm going to go ahead and pause that.